Our journey on the legendary Ayeyarwady River travels from Mandalay to Bagan. In the heart of Myanmar is the city of Mandalay that has a population of around 1 million and is the center of Burmese artistry. Its unique significance as the last royal city of the former Burmese kingdom can be seen today in numerous of its historical districts. The former role of the royal family is even more evident when one considers the dimensions of the old royal palace. It once covered an area of nearly 4 square kilometers. The foundation stone for the city of Mandalay and its magnificent royal palace was laid on the 13th of February 1857. This date was predicted by an astrologist, as 4 years earlier, the tyrant king Pagan Min was deposed following a coup d'etat. The new Burmese monarch, King Mindon, wished to see an end to the country's brutal, warlike past, and thus proclaimed a return to justice and religion. The teaching of Buddhism was given the utmost priority, so Mandalay was designed according to Buddhist tradition. The Mahamuni Pagoda is now one of Myanmar's main pilgrimage destinations. But Mandalay has not only become well known as the last residence of the Burmese monarchy. Its economy flourished due to its colourful variety of arts and crafts. No other city in Myanmar contains such a variety. Its workshops produce a large quantity of religious items. There's the rhythmic hammering of gold leaf production. The delicate gold leaf is created with simple tools and much hard work. The skills of both local artists and master builders are highlighted in Mandalay's many old buildings, such as the Shwezigon Pagoda that dates back to the 19th century. As with so many of the city's monuments, this pagoda also dates back to King Mindon, although contemporary designs are also on view. The king had the entire collection of Theravada Buddhism texts, the Tipitaki, immortalized on 729 marble plates. The Hsinbyume Pagoda also contains some famous texts from the Pali Canon that was chiseled into 1,774 marble plates. But despite the influence of Buddhism, no real peace was achieved as the pagoda was built in honor of King Mindon's younger brother, who was murdered during a palace revolt by 2 of the king's sons. The important role played by religion in Mandalay is evident in its impressive number of magnificent monasteries, such as the beautiful Shwezigon Monastery. A jewel merchant who originated from China and made his fortune here donated the monastery in 1895, thus creating one of the last examples of Burmese monastery architecture. Religious ceremonies and festivities still influence the lives of the people. The Pagoda Festival that takes place in October is one of the most popular festivals in Mandalay. During this festival, the Taugi Pagoda that was built in 1878, the year King Mingun died, is the main focal point. The interior of the pagoda features a magnificent Buddha statue that was carved from a giant slab of marble. One of the city's most important landmarks, and which led to the founding of the city, is an idyllic hill, Mandalay Hill. According to legend, Buddha once stayed on this hill in the north of the city. Thus, it has since become a sacred location that contains several beautiful pagodas. A shrine contains 3 of Buddha's bones, the Peshawar relics, an absolute rarity. Mandalay is both the religious and also the economic centre of Myanmar. This river port has managed to retain its character of old. The liberalisation of the country has flourished in recent years, although the living standards of its people still leave something to be desired. Until quite recently, around 20% of Myanmar's population lived below the poverty line. But even so, the percentage of poor people that live here is still lower than in other parts of Southeast Asia. A ferry service travels from the Go Wien jetty and leads downstream to Bagan. The journey provides a good opportunity to discover the Ayeyarwady River and its surrounding scenery. The first stop is Mingun, a small village that captivates with its colourful rural atmosphere. A traditional ox wagon travels from the Ayeyarwady pier to the village that in recent years has become increasingly popular with the inhabitants of Mandalay. We arrive at the Bodwapaya Pagoda, a replica of what was once a major architectural project of King Bodwapaya. Even though its construction was halted following the king's death, the dimensions and design of the site are plain to see. The remaining journey by ox wagon to the unfinished monument only takes a few minutes. Several merchants offer their souvenirs along the way. Next we arrive at the foot of the gigantic Mantaragi, or Mingun Pagoda, that due to its proportions has become known as a monument of conceit. The remains of the massive building indicate the former power of the Konbaung dynasty as ruled by King Bodwapaya at the end of the 18th century. In an attack of total megalomania, he announced that in addition to gracing Mingun with the largest Buddhist sanctuary in the world, he would also subdue Siam, invade China, and conquer India. Needless to say, he was unable to realize his somewhat ambitious goals. The nearby Hsinbyume Pagoda was built by his grandson, who was also the heir to the throne. King Bagyidaw had this monument built for his favorite wife who had passed away 3 years prior to his becoming king. Even now, this monument is one of the most splendid pagodas in Myanmar. Built in 1816, the architecture of the pagoda is based upon Hindu-Buddhist cosmology as it symbolizes the sacred Meru mountain. According to old teachings, Meru Mountain forms the center of the universe and is also the abode for various deities and protective spirits. The sun, moon, and planets circle around it. Each one influences the seasons and therefore the well-being of humanity. According to Buddhist cosmology, Meru Mountain is surrounded by a total of 7 mountain ranges that are symbolized by numerous terraces. Mingun's Hsinbyume Pagoda became the architectural model for a number of further pagodas that were built at the beginning of the 19th century at the time of King Bagyidaw. The legendary Mingun bell that weighs around 100 tons and is the heaviest bell in the world dates back to his predecessor, King Bodwapaya. We continue our journey on the Ayeyarwady. This long river travels from Tibet to the southeast of the Himalayas prior to flowing through China and into Myanmar. For the people of Myanmar, this river has always been an important lifeline, a vital thoroughfare for the entire community. The ferry to Bagan frequently stops to allow new passengers to board. Landing stages are few and far between. At the beginning of the 20th century, the Ayeyarwady boasted the largest fleet of steamboats in the world. And even today, a good number of them still remain. The importance of this river is highlighted by the many small temple buildings and sanctuaries that are situated along the riverbank. The Ayeyarwady also influenced the early history of Myanmar. Numerous immigrants followed the natural course of the river. Several large waves of immigrants from Tibet and China travelled south down the river. In addition to its historical and cultural significance, the Ayeyarwady also formed the backbone of Myanmar's transport system. The country's first immigrants were members of the mountain people of the Mon tribe that settled here in around 3000 BC. During the 1st century BC, the people of the Pyu tribe reached today's Myanmar, where they created several small city-states. According to ancient Chinese history, the Pyu were an extremely peace-loving people. But as the city-states never came together to form a larger kingdom, they were susceptible to invasion. In the middle of the 9th century, the armies of the Nyaung U kingdom reached the Ayeyarwady and eventually ended the reign of the Pyu tribe. The river gained literary fame due to the famous British author Rudyard Kipling and his poem On the Road to Mandalay. For many long years, the country's treasures lay hidden, as following its independence, Myanmar was controlled by an austere socialist government. It is only in recent years that foreign tourists have been allowed here, but today there's even a luxurious boat that's available for exclusive river cruises. The journey on the picturesque Ayeyarwady gradually comes to an end. We've reached the final destination of our journey, Bagan. The country's main tourist attraction. Apart from innumerable historical monuments, Bagan provides its visitors with many fascinating insights into the work of the local craftsmen. The city is well prepared for foreign visitors. It has a large range of cultural offerings that range from traditional puppet theatres to temple dances. Bagan has become well known for its overwhelming number of magnificent temple buildings that reflect the importance of the former kingdom. The most comfortable way to experience the wide spread of sanctuaries of this first major Burmese city is to travel by ox carriage. Close to Nyaung U, the largest town in the Bagan Plains, the Shwezigon Pagoda served as the inspiration of Burmese pagoda architecture. The rise of Bagan to it becoming the capital of the Burmese kingdom and the then largest Buddhist metropolis began in the middle of the 11th century under King Anurata, who, following a successful military campaign, introduced the Pali Canon of Theravada Buddhism to this region. In addition to the numerous cultural treasures gained from the conquered Mon capital of Teton by King Anarata, around 30,000 prisoners were also brought to Bagan. These prisoners were the former elite of Teton. Monks, stonemasons, smiths and master builders were now put to work in this new center of power. In subsequent years, Bagan was a hive of activity. The displaced Mon craftsmen played a central role here. The extensive building program in the middle of Burma lasted for around 240 years. The huge and architecturally well-proportioned and magnificently decorated Bodwapaya Pato dates back to the late 12th century, the golden age of Bagan. Only one other building is taller, the Temple of Omniscience, the Nyaung U Pato. At a total of 61 meters, it's the tallest building in Bagan. The lower area of the sanctuary is decorated with various Buddha figures. For reasons of conservation, visitors are not allowed to venture onto the higher terraces. Unlike the timber buildings of the early days of the Burmese capital, the stone and adobe buildings have survived right up to the present day. According to ancient inscriptions, the central statue of the Nyaung U Pato, a huge seated Buddha, was dedicated around 200 years after the initial completion of the temple. The gradual decay of the formerly proud and splendid kingdom of Bagan set in from the 13th century. Internal problems began to destroy the infrastructure of its government. An inept monarchy gradually brought the country to its knees. The special status of the country's temples and monasteries with regard to their privilege of being tax-free properties created a shortfall in the public purse. Both government and military also began to suffer. Hostilities by the enemies of Shan and Thai in the northeast of the kingdom became more frequent. The fate of the Burmese kingdom was determined when the last great king of Bagan, Nara Tihapate, refused to pay tribute to the mighty Mongolian ruler Kublai Khan. When Nara Tihapate executed several delegates from Mongolia, the result came hard and fast. The armies of Bagan were incapable of defeating the overwhelming military forces from the north. The Mongolians quickly thrust themselves into the center of power. Yet despite their victory, they did not destroy the city of Bagan. The kingdom collapsed without the destruction of the city. The gradual decay of the city's magnificent temple sites began in the 14th century. Despite the fact that many of its buildings are now in ruins, the splendor of the former capital of the Bagan Kingdom has remained visible until the present day. The journey from Mandalay to Bagan is a truly captivating and memorable experience.